Cliff told me he may be a couple of minutes late. I'm realizing I forgot to call Mike Morey back. So let me send him a quick text. How are you doing?
Good. We have, we're broadcasting on YouTube, and then we also have two attendees, Margaret and Sheridan, with us.
Sure. Copy that.
Minutes. Anybody else?
This is scheduled till 2:30, I think, right?
That is correct.
Okay. We're gonna go skiing at Snowbird.
No, I'm down in the valley today.
I'm also in the valley running errands.
Oh, you sitting in a parking lot?
I'm in a parking lot.
So
All right, now,
Piper and I had a couple of updates to what we distributed last week. Especially after that meeting that Jen organized yesterday, which was really quite informative. Thank you.
You're very
But I
welcome.
don't see it from Piper quite yet. So she may just end up having to share her screen once she gets on here. And I told her that Cliff was going to be a little bit late so that she could take her time and make sure that the printout from Cassell was, organized right. So she'll be a minute or two. There's John. I had a very interesting conversation with Laura about their rate structure. I sent you that link.
You did. Can I just ask a question? You're not starting the meeting until Cliff joins officially.
Well, that
For
was
the recording, I want to make sure I have my timing right.
yeah. Well, I don't know. Elise, we don't have the document in front of us with Piper yet either. So that was really more what I was waiting for, Jen.
Okay. I usually hold off until you officially start the
Right.
meeting.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, do you think that there's a lot of, you can't tell how many people are watching on YouTube?
I can tell how many people are watching, yes.
Oh, how many?
I just don't know who they are.
That's okay.
We have just me,
Okay.
but that sometimes changes.
Right. I mean, if we had a big attendance, I would, try to get started and brief everybody, but let's give Piper another minute. And so what I think we need to do with the water, given what that conversation yesterday, Jen, is this budget, the 22 budget rather, has a little bit of money coming out of PTIF savings for water to make it balance, about $14,000. And I think we ought to make sure that we recover that in the rates rather than take it out of the PTIF.
Okay.
And just,
Piper and I had a conversation this morning about some steps we could take forward to provide some better information on.
Yeah, and to keep the structure the same for now, because that's going to be a bigger deal. It was really interesting talking to so Elise yesterday. We met with our water rate analyst, and it looks like a good idea to move from the current very complicated ECU structure, which has a lot of quasi-fictional things going on. Oops. Somehow I lost my camera here. You guys still see me?
Yes.
There we go. we were talking about, since it's pursuant, it has to do with this budget. I'll just mention it here. Well, I guess we should start the meeting, Jen. Let me, I need to call up a version of this then. Okay, here we go.
The date was May 6th, if that's helpful. I think that's probably
Of which?
for the last determination letter that we're using for this meeting. If that's
Oh, I don't think I need to say it.
No, well, just that you have one.
Yeah, okay, so there's a May 6th determination letter about the lack of safety. Boy, the CDC's rules are going to make this more complicated, but until we have confidence that everybody's vaccinated, I don't think we should be in the same room together. I mean, we might be okay, but the public, we don't know what the public is up to. Okay, somewhere I had the agenda. Here it is. Okay. Termination letter, call the meeting to order. You're recording it. So this is the Budget Committee meeting of Friday, May 14th, 2021 for the town of Alta Town Council. We're going to discuss both the 21 and 22 town of Alta budgets. The tentative 22 budget was accepted by the town council on Wednesday, the 12th, and we're going to see what kind of revisions we need to make between now and adopting the final budget next month. And then the 21 budget needs to be amended, a reconciled budget, which we haven't done. The last time we amended that was mid-year. Okay. Let me send a quick, let's make sure that Piper.
I was just going to call her.
Yeah, just let's make sure that she knows where she has the link and all of that. I'm going to go ahead and give her a call. So Elise, I'll just fill you in on this conversation yesterday about the water rates. And so we have this very complicated ECU structure where we count faucets, and I don't really get it. But another way to do this is a tiered structure. And I had a conversation with Salt Lake City Public Utilities this morning, and they use a tiered structure. And the goals for the tiered structure, besides covering their costs, are conservation, equity, and oh, she had a fourth one, which I don't recall what she said. But anyway, it turns out that it's a pretty complicated issue, and I think that it's going to take a year to resolve fully. But I would propose that rather than taking money out of our savings account, since it is an enterprise fund, that the 22 budget reflects our actual expected costs. And so we have expected costs that are a little bit higher than our revenues. So I think we should assume that the revenues match the costs, and we will have a small rate increase, keeping the structure the same for now. And I think the tiered structure is probably the way to go. It furthers the goal of conservation better. It makes it much more straightforward to be sure that you're covering your costs, and it's much more transparent to the public. One thing that Laura told me was that they often get sued about water rates. It's pretty interesting. All right, did you get Piper on the phone?
I did. She's trying to make those updates for you before joining.
Right. We were talking just before this. Okay. Did she want me to just wait, or did she want me to use the older version? I guess waiting
I didn't
probably
ask that
makes sense.
question.
Although the 22, she had fewer changes, but I'm not sure that I wrote them all down. What I can do is show you what I was talking about on the water. That may be worthwhile. Yeah, let me just share this. So Elise, do you have video or just audio?
Right now I have video, but we have a leaking pipe down at our rental house that we're trying to fix at the same time. So we don't have the best cell service there. So I may go from back. I may have to call in if I lose you.
Okay, speaking of water, so you can see that the water sales that we project based on last year's budget is 196,185. And I'm going to scroll down to use of water reserves of 13,900. So what I am going to suggest in the 22 budget is that we take that 13,900, bring that down to zero, and add 13,900 here, which would require a 6 or 7% increase in our water revenues. So we'll have to make some adjustments to the water charges. This 15,900 from other financing sources has to do with the Bureau of Reclamation. That's still money coming in there. Okay, so that's on the water. The sewer, I don't suggest any changes from what we approved the other day. We did make the change to the property tax. I'm going to editorialize that I continue to have a problem with that. We now have the highest median property value in the county and either the second lowest or lowest total tax burden on our properties. So, and now we have 81% of our, I think it's 81% of our budget is coming out of sales and other sales related taxes. So I just think it makes us very precarious. But I don't expect a groundswell of sentiment to change that. So, all right, I'm going to stop sharing this because, oh no, this is the proposed budget that she just sent me.
Piper just emailed.
Yeah, I just got that one. Okay. I don't know if she had any small adjustments up here. Let me see where else we. Now, at this point, I think I should wait for her to send the other update. I'm going to close these two. Okay, here's the 21-22 proposed budget. Okay, let me share this because this is the one we accepted with some proposals. She's going to have to come on here and explain. There you are. Hi, Piper.
Hi.
How are you doing? Okay. So this is the 22 budget. We'll have to talk about the amended 21 budget next, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to send a new version of that right now too?
I just did the 22. I did not make the changes of 21.
Okay, so we'll have to talk about that. I'm sharing the document you just sent.
Okay.
Okay, so the 243 is the property tax expected. The sales tax, we increased by the 52,000 to make that balance out. There were a few small changes in here as a result of looking at the actuals in previous years. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, these are the right numbers. Yes. So the 310, 400, and 410, I increased from the current actual based on what we got last year during May, June, and July.
Right. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So that's just better data. I'm just going to scroll down here. Let me know when you think I need to stop.
I'll
Or
look
Elise,
at,
if you have any questions, Elise, you can be driving this bus too, so to speak.
I don't have any questions right now. I'm probably going to be relying mostly on staff and Piper to kind of
Yeah.
give input on how we're going to balance this out.
Okay.
And then,
Elise. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Are you able to open the to do two things at once, like open the one that I just sent?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that when I get to. I don't know if you heard. Jonathan and I are at our rental house doing some stuff, and I may lose video, so I may have to switch over to just a regular phone audio. And at that point, I'll open up the. But right now, I can see the screen getting shared.
Okay, so are you down to 1039 yet?
No, I'm at 1036,400. The sale of fixed assets, that's one truck, correct?
Yes, that should be for two. Yeah.
Right. That's what I thought. So that should say 50,000 in that at 1036,400. That'll have implications lower down too.
Between 20 and 25. So I think 45 is a conservative number. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we had said 35,000 from the impact fund, but that actually exceeds the, there's some in the 21 budget. And between that and the 35 that was here, it exceeds the actual balance of the impact fund. So we lowered this to the 21.
Right.
This is the repayment of debt at the current rate. That's one of the things we should, when we do the water study, we're going to talk about whether this is fast enough. At this rate, it's going to take 20 years. So Cliff, during that water meeting yesterday, suggested we accelerate that to a 10-year repayment schedule, which I had suggested even faster. So we can take
which would be about 40,000, more than 40,000, right?
Right. I think we put in 50 as the number okay.
Yeah.
Then let's see. Okay. Anything here we need to talk about in the court? No, I don't think so.
It looks like Sheridan had a question about explaining the impact funds.
On expenditure or revenue side?
I think she wanted an explanation on the 87,000. It's in the chat.
Okay, well, why don't we deal with this as a committee and then open it up to their comments, questions. I think we did talk about that on Wednesday, as a matter of fact, but we can come back to it. All right. Did you have any issues in here, Elise, from the other day in the administrative costs?
No.
Okay. I don't remember if we had any. One thing to point out is, there's Cliff. Hey, Cliff. Hi, Cliff.
I'm sorry that I'm late.
Oh, thanks for joining us. We got started about 5 after, and this is the 22 budget that was tentatively accepted, or this is the tentative. There are a few small changes in here. Let me quickly. So this represents, you can see that this is the property tax change now on paper. And there were some, we updated, Piper updated these additional revenues from taxes based on last year's April, May, and June the year before is April, May, and June. So it's more reflective of what to expect this year. And then let's see.
The fixed asset number in 1036, it should be 45,000 for 2 trucks we'll be selling.
Right, instead of the 25,000. That's just we caught that error just now, Cliff. So we're going to have a little bit more revenue coming in as a result of the sale of the second truck.
That's 1036,400.
Correct.
So.
Oh, I hear paper, Cliff.
Yeah, it's a good
printed
technology.
It out. He printed it out.
Maybe I was late, but at least I was prepared as of yesterday. Oh,
And then there's a change in 1039-410, Cliff. The version you printed out probably says 35,000 in there. And that actually, as it turns out, exceeds the remaining balance in that account. So we lowered it to the 21,000. Let me see.
The jackhammer again.
Yeah,
oh,
there's
no.
It's
Yeah.
Cliff.
it's Cliff's free version of Zoom, I think. I don't know if that's really true, Cliff.
Do you think that's what it is?
It wouldn't
Mayor?
surprise me
Is
if they're
that it?
trying
Is that
to.
I'm a cheapskate. I am a notorious cheapskate.
Well,
So
I
maybe
just
need to
noticed
upgrade.
that the first time I ever heard that was when we were on a call with Mike Mon, and you said it's a free version, and I was just I wonder if they give you a disincentive. Okay. I don't know, Cliff, if you had specific questions, I'm just scrolling through here. The Central Wasatch Commission have given us a 10% discount, quote unquote, last year during COVID. They've asked us to go back up to our 100%.
Mayor, I really didn't. There wasn't really anything that I wanted to question
Okay.
here. I hope we're making good use of everybody's time. As you know, I've been playing catch up this week from having been out of town.
Right. Okay, well, and Elise didn't so far have questions. There are going to be some from, I know Piper and Sheridan are watching the call, Cliff, and they'll have some questions, I'm sure. But I wanted us to go through it and make sure that the
In
committee
1070,
made sense.
oh,
Yeah,
you haven't got to 1072 yet is the impact fee. So that approved budget was 10,000. That should be 21,000, which is pretty much what's left in the impact fund.
And then I do want to call your, so with the 50,000 for the 45,000 with the two trucks, this is going to change a little bit right here, right, Piper?
Right, by about 20,000. It
Yeah,
could go
because-
up by 39,000. It could be 39,000. Yeah.
Right, because of the second truck. Cliff and Elise, I'm on 1095.50. And then if you look at the water,
Mayor, and I wasn't able to make the changes we just talked about in water.
okay, I'll point it out. I already talked to Elise about it. So Cliff, notice this is pursuant to our conversation yesterday about the water rates. Notice that this budget assumes about $14,000 coming out of the water savings. And what I would propose we do is we make this zero and don't mess with the structure of our water billing, but raise the rate in our water to cover our actual expense. So this 196, which is based on the current year budget, would go up by this 13,900 to make this zero. The sewer fund remains the same. So those are the only things that in reviewing this since the amendment on the property tax last time, have to suggest as changes that we adopt in the June meeting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. No questions here. And Piper, I assume that you will give us a highlights sheet on that for the June meeting. I think it'll be a pretty short one.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, so let me invite. Should we move to the other budget, or do you want to take comments and questions from Elise and Sheridan at this point, committee members? What's your pleasure?
Oh, sure. Let's take comments and questions while we're on this one, I feel.
Okay. Yes, Margaret, Sheridan.
I've moved them over
Okay, good.
in the meeting for now.
Sheridan,
Hi.
you had posted something in the chat.
Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
Okay. So I'm curious about the impact fund, which projected looks to be approximately 87,000, if that could be explained. And then I'm hoping that my sense of the big stroke numbers are accurate, that we're spending in this proposed budget, we intend to spend approximately $1 million on our police coverage, about 500,000 almost on our administrative costs. And going forward, though not in this budget, our expectation with the UFSA will be about 600,000, just in rough numbers. Is that accurate?
Okay, so it's taking the impact. This budget has a 21,750 transfer from impact fees. Not 87,000, but unless, do you have a line number that you're concerned with in
I
particular?
think she's talking about the 21 budget.
Right, we're talking about the 22 budget right now, Sheridan. We'll come back to the 21 budget in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the UFSA number goes, I don't know the total amount. It would be based, we can find that out. It's a 3.5% increase over, well, in November of 22, no, in November of 21, our homeowners will be billed for UFSA on their property tax bill. And that will be in 21, it's going to be 3.5% more than it was in 20. What that number was in 20, we didn't pay it, so I don't have that in my head. It's 3.5% more than it would have been in 20 if we had paid it in 20, which we did not.
So why do I have the 15% increase in property tax values floating around in my head? Is that not accurate?
People are, well, it's complicated. We just lowered people's property tax to the town by 25%. Their overall bill is going to go up because the town's portion of the property tax is relatively small.
So without changing our property tax, the difference in the previous year and adding UFSA would be about 14.8%.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Am I right about those other rough numbers approximately?
On the 22 budget, remind me, at this point in our conversation, I lost track of which numbers you were asking about. Sorry.
Oh, I apologize. I'm throwing a lot at you all at once, or at everybody on the committee. So roughly, we are intending to spend about $500,000 on administrative costs and about $1 million on police costs.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that's right. In the 22 budget, it's roughly 513,000 on administrative costs and $1,005,000 on police in the police budget. Right. So, out of a $1.9 million budget, or let's round it up to a $2 million budget, 3/4 of it are just running the police and the town. We don't, yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else on the 22 budget?
I did have some questions. They're smaller amounts than some of what you've been talking about, but one was 1051-645, the Alta Resort shuttle. I would like to see us increase our expenditures to that. I'd like to see expanded service potentially for them, that we maybe would get people coming up from Snowbird to frequent restaurants and bars, and that would be something that would be a benefit. We wouldn't have cars moving at that time of day, potentially contributing to the red snake, because people want to get out because there's nothing else to do. So if they were able to keep their cars where they are, we're supporting our businesses, allowing more people to come in. So I'd like to see an increase in cost on that particular item. And then also on 1043, 350, I just have a question. We're showing that for the election we would spend $2,500, and in the past, a prior election year, we spent $200. So it just seems like there's a significant difference in those costs. So I just want to make sure those numbers were correct. I don't know if you want to, I have two more. I don't know whether you once or whether you want me to allow you to respond to some of those.
No,
I can respond to
Piper,
the elections that we didn't have an election, so there were really no cost there. And the 2,500 is an estimated
But I was
cost.
looking at 2 years ago. I was looking at 2 years
Oh.
ago where we did have an election.
Oh, 1040.
So I may be looking at the wrong stuff, but I thought that was the question. So as long as we're accurately reflecting it, that's all. So if I'm wrong, no problem.
where'd the 2,500 number come from, Piper?
The estimate from Salt Lake County in that recent contract that we signed.
So that's what I thought. So Margaret, it may not be very closely related to past costs, but it is the number we were quoted for outsourcing that service.
Okay, all right. So then the resort shuttle, I guess, is a committee or a council decision about what we're going to do about that in terms of supporting our businesses and so on. And I had a question about 1054 110. We've got building maintenance to account for some of the full-time employee salary, but I don't know what that is, what the total salary package is for that full-time employee that we're looking to share time between the town building maintenance and the police department and dispatch. Do we have a total amount for that employee package?
Do we disclose in a public forum individuals' compensation? I'm not sure if we've done that before. I'm a little wary about that particular.
We
It
don't.
is oh, sorry, John.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead. Jen's going to say the same thing. So either one of us,
Good.
it's available. It's a state requirement. It's on the state website, and so.
Okay, that's
But-
then it's not.
Newsletter, but
I would also, we don't have a hired employee in this position yet, though. So I would my caution is that because we haven't fully negotiated with this employee and brought them on yet, that we just be careful in this situation because they're not an existing employee under the structure.
It
Right,
was just
so
the question of what we budget. Isn't that what we're doing here? So
I'm sorry, Margaret, you broke up. At least you did for me. Can you say that again, please?
it wasn't that this is, I'm looking for the contract amount, which obviously can't be done until it's accomplished, but we have what looks like an increase in the building maintenance account for the town, which would account for a salary. But I was just wondering what the commensurate amount was in the police department budget for that. So whether we end up higher or lower than those numbers once we actually hire the individual, I'm just trying to figure out roughly where we are.
I think we were allocating half of this employee's time to the police department and half to the other departments. Isn't that right, Piper?
And that's an estimation because we don't know what that split is going to be yet exactly. But yes, that's approximately true. And also another hard thing about the police amount there for salaries and wages are the overtime amounts and the you can't accurately predict overtime, and kind of the same in the building maintenance because that new person, we know they'll be working overtime sometimes. We don't know
How
at the
often?
end of the week period which they'll be working overtime at dispatch or building maintenance. So it's a rough estimate.
Okay, and then in 1056-110, I just wanted to make sure that we accounted for the post office salary increase. As I looked at the actuals versus the prior year versus what we're budgeting, I just want to make sure that those numbers accurately reflect the increase that I thought we were putting across the board for all the
Yeah.
employees of the town, whether they're part-time, full-time.
So it is a good point that the 21 budget compared to the 22 budget doesn't really reflect much of an increase there, Piper. So
You're right. I thought that I had calculated that, but I can take another look at it.
25,235.
Right, that's what I came up with. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not what it says.
right. I will take
Okay.
another look. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. That's a good catch, Margaret.
And then the last comment, which I apologize, I should have done earlier, the 1039-410, the Alta Community Center. I would like to see before we expend additional money, particularly in the direction of fundraising, that we get more information from the community, whether or not it's through the Planning Commission or otherwise. I know that there has been a committee that has worked with INEAD and town staff on this. I'm just wondering how actual residents have been part of this process versus the broader community in general. And I'd like to, before we get to fundraising, that we have a community.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I can't
because
hear
it
what
seems to me it is.
I couldn't hear what you were saying there. I'm sorry.
Going in and out.
I can only speak as still met the fundraising effort until we have more of the Alta community, which specifically I'm looking at, who are clear that this is the vision that they want for our town.
Okay, let's move on to the other budget then.
Oh, can I just say I really second and want to emphasize what Councilwoman Burke just said.
Okay. All right, should I pull up the document with the highlights, Piper?
Yes.
Okay. This is the document from yesterday morning or yesterday midday, Piper.
Right. This is the one that I've those three highlighted amounts, I looked at last year's May, June, and July revenues and have added them in there. So that 23,250 gets up to 30,000. The 51,000 goes to 67,000 and the 61 goes to 67. So what did you say that was, Mayor? Like 18,000 more?
Yeah,
14,000?
about 18,000, something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And then we have a little bit more in the animal licenses.
Yes. Jen,
Six.
have any of the new people, were there 10 licenses, Jen?
5.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah. Anyway, I lowballed and said 16,000 there.
But it's the total is still the same, right? We're not the net amount of licenses is still the same. We still have the same number of people, 95, buying licenses, annual licenses. Or well, sorry, it's not 95 total. That's
Right, but we're gonna get more revenue between now and June 30th.
oh yes, we will get maybe another couple $100.
Okay.
That
And already we've received 15,560. I put 16,000. So we may be 100 short there, something like that. Am I being clear on that?
I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. I beg your pardon.
The animal licenses, I think is going to come up just short of 16,000.
Right. That's what you and I talked about earlier.
Right.
Okay. There was some other highlight down lower. I don't remember how far down. Your buildings and grounds maintenance.
Ugh. Went blank again.
1075, 260.
So that was for, we just changed that this week. Chris Colley, last week and this week, Chris Colley has been following up with IT people about improving the audio visual system in the library so that when we either go back to in-person meetings or if that's the base station for having those meetings, I'm sorry, I was looking at Sheridan's thing, but we moved that up to 7,000 to accommodate some spending this month and next month in improving that. I'm going to follow along with your schedule because mine
Okay.
went blank again.
All right. This 70,771, Cliff and Elise, is the expected amount from the American Recovery Act. It's very close to the amount that the sewer fund took out of its savings last year. The American Recovery Act is a little bit dicey. I've gotten a couple of different opinions about this. We are not allowed to use it to backfill a tax cut. We are offering a tax cut, and so there is a little bit of risk there. The way that we can perhaps avoid saying that is it's not a tax cut, it's just a transfer to a different form of tax in the UFSA, and I don't know what our exposure there is. I haven't been able to get a clear sense. But anyway, and I would not think that the general fund ought to fund this. The water fund, which only goes, as we've talked about, there's a debt there, which only goes to some of our residents. But the sewer is used by all of our residents. Sorry, Cliff.
Mayor, can I offer a little input there? And again, I don't know what's going on with my microphone, so I thank you all for your patience. But I think we've got a pretty clean and true story to tell about the tax cut. It's intended both in the 21 and the 22. Well, actually, Sorry, I guess it is for the 22, but yeah, it's a little different for the 21 since our contract was half the amount, wasn't it? But certainly, as it affects the current budget or the next budget going forward, it should be just a straight wash.
Now, I understand the logic. I just don't know what. Right.
Well, and I mean, it's not just the logic; it's the reality of it. It was the whole rationale for it. But I know it's a little different for 2021.
Okay, so this amount is just the amount that we have more than we budgeted, well, more than we spent.
So
And-
with the changes that we've just talked about, that could go up to 371,000.
Is there any, okay. So let me throw the ball to Cliff and Elise. Did you have items on this agenda on the 21 amendments to the 21 budget from January that you have concerns about?
Nope, I'm good. I'll defer to Elise.
Oh, we lost Elise.
We knew we could.
Yeah. Let me send her a quick. Oh, she's trying to reconnect. I will call in. She says she doesn't have comments or questions on the 21 amended budget. Okay, so let me go ahead and open that up to anybody else who's on the call. I'm not looking at the participants list, so I don't know if it's just Sheridan and Margaret still.
It is. And I've just brought them both back in so they can ask questions. Ladies?
Thanks. So I wondered if this is where it's appropriate to talk about that expected impact fund, or was that the previous year's budget of 87,000 roughly?
That is the 21 budget. So yes, this is the appropriate time. And that was the 75,000 for the NEAD and feasibility study and the avalanche study. 75,000. There were some admin costs that we also put on there for the pro forma calculations and research. And there's also 15,000 proposed there for preparing the next step in preparing a fundraising package. I don't know if that's what you call it, but
Well, right.
Go
So,
ahead, Mayor.
yeah, INEAD has completed their work. $15,000 would buy a scale model and a package that can be the basis of raising money. Again, coming out of the impact fund, where this would be an appropriate use of that money, and that money will expire next year.
So just so I'm clear as a councilwoman, this money though could have been used for many different things as part of the impact fund. It didn't necessarily have to be earmarked. And again, this is water under the bridge. We've hired NEAD, they've come up with their proposal. But going forward, so I understand this impact fund money, could I hear again the definition of what it has to be used for?
John, I'm going to rely on you since we don't have Polly on the call.
Okay, well, it's relatively restricted. And it gets more restrictive every year from the legislature, since the legislature is mostly developers and real estate people. They'd like to axe the impact fund altogether, but I won't go off on that tangent. But anything that we can attribute to new growth. And this was one thing that we checked out with the state auditor that we could use it for. We can't use it for a new police car unless I'm not even sure we can use it for a new police car if we're hiring an additional officer requiring more equipment. We can use it for things that we have to increase due to additional growth and development. Like the big thing right now is that we've got a dip in the sewer line at Gold Miner's Daughter. We could not use impact fees to fix failing infrastructure. So it's kind of, that's it in a nutshell. And I can't remember the different categories. Like, so we could, the traffic is bad. There's another thing that I would love to use it for. The traffic is bad right now in Alta. So the traffic calming device in that island and a possible crosswalk. I mean, 10 years ago, we didn't have that problem. But now with more development and more people, we can use it for, we can use the impact fee money for traffic calming, crosswalks, things like that. So anything directly tied to new development and growth.
So it could be earmarked to revamp our current community center, let's say?
Yes.
Thank you.
I had some additional questions. I hope my voice doesn't break up again on this portion, but one was, I thought on this budget, and I don't know if it's been changed, it looked like Chris was indicating that we do t-shirts, and yet I thought Piper had zeroed out 1050, 330 because we weren't going to be doing meals or t-shirts this year. So it's a small amount. It's just a matter of making sure that we accurately reflect what we're actually going to do.
Which item is
and
it?
I also had a question about
1050, 330. I think when I had proposed a budget earlier, we still didn't know that that was going to happen, but it is 1,800 now in that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize. I didn't get a chance to look through all of that. And then the same thing about the salary increases, just to make sure the numbers across the board reflect the 2.5% that I believe that we agreed would be in effect for the final 2021 budget.
Is there a particular number that you think that didn't get multiplied properly?
Well, 1054, 110. I had a question about that number actually being accurate.
Okay, hold on a sec. Let's see.
But there are a couple of them. So,
Mhm.
but it may be just me not understanding how it was being done.
Noel, you were right on the last time, so stand by, please.
While you're looking up that,
Yeah, that is too low. At least based on the budget approved in January. That number, Piper, that 485 should be 487, 388.
So, I mean, it's totally up to you, but I'm not sure it requires everybody to be on the Zoom to do this, but also it was 1043, 110. I had the same kind of question whether we actually accurately reflected those kind of increases. So I guess my point is, do we need to just verify before we get to June so that we have the correct numbers?
So I also looked at where we were because the The admin office salaries do have some overtime. 2 people are eligible for overtime. And 1054 as well. So when
Well, the
I
1043, that makes sense because the number that's shown there is higher than if you just do the multiplication on the approved budget in January. But the other one, 1043, the number's too low.
on
So,
1043. So the
or no,
1040,
I'm sorry. It was the first one that Margaret mentioned was too low, which was 1054.
And I think I know, Piper, if I may just ask, which positions in admin are eligible for overtime? Just their roles. Don't need their names.
Well, there's 2 who are hourly and 2 who are salaried.
Got it. Thank you.
So in terms of the 2.5% and the overtime, I wasn't sure, maybe the summer program, and I don't have that account number. So some of the obviously much smaller amounts in terms of our overall budget, but that we accurately reflect that increase for all that are entitled to it.
Right. Yes, and I don't think that those numbers need to be checked. I think you're right, Margaret.
Jen,
Thank
did
you.
we look at that there were 3 pay periods left? Does that sound right?
I wasn't looking at the year to date. I was just looking at I was multiplying the budget.
That's
I
what we
looked at,
discussed, Piper. Yes.
sorry?
That's what we
Yes.
discussed, if you were going to accrue the last one that is paid
Right.
from July back to June.
So I can tell you that the 1043, the admin is approximately 10,000 per pay period. So if you looked at and added 30,000 to our year to date, that it would have been too close to do that before. It would have been too close to the 235, which is why I upped it there, not knowing the overtime situation. And then in the 1054, kind of the same situation, except their pay period is around, for payroll is about 20,000. So if you add 60,000 to that year-to-date number for 76, it would have exceeded the other budgeted amount. So
I see what you mean. Okay, so
That's the
let
reason.
me, I see. Okay, so let me try and make sure I understand, and then maybe this will help Margaret, is that the budgeted amounts are not simply the hourly times the 2,040 hours that somebody works, because there is overtime and we don't know exactly how much overtime there's going to be. So you can't just multiply the budgeted amount times, say, 2.5% and get the new number, because what Piper's doing is basing the new number on the expected actual expenditure rather than the budgeted amount, because the budgeted amount has the uncertainty of the overtime, and the year-to-date actual amount, that overtime has either been accrued or not. So it's a more accurate number. Okay, Piper, I take it back that they're inaccurate. I see where you're headed now. Okay. And Margaret, these differences are, and we ought to think that through in the 22 budget too. That item that I had said that Margaret had caught, because that may be a similar issue. But this is one of the reasons, Margaret, why there's always a budget amendment process every spring. Okay, anything else? All right.
Yes, please, Mayor.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought that the chat was included in the record keeping with this, but it isn't. So I just wanted to suggest that maybe we would consider upping what we fund, making the library fund more robust. I think it's a great means of building community. I think libraries have been proven, especially during the pandemic, to be incredibly useful, although ours wasn't able to be employed that way, but something to consider, I think, for future budget items.
The library is funded by the county, I believe, as in its function as a library. Isn't that right?
They pay for some of the infrastructure. They pay for the computers and the internet.
Yeah.
We spend something on our library as well, from what I saw from our budget.
Yes, we take care of the building. We pay for electricity, insurance for the building. We might replace some equipment. Well, the reason that I don't know if you're looking at the sheet that has 4,000 for the buildings and grounds maintenance, we just upped that $3,000 to help upgrade the audio visual system. But the building, the room, the space doesn't need that much maintenance costs compared to some of our other buildings.
Do we
And
buy the
so-
periodicals? Oh, sorry to jump in, Piper. Forgive me.
Oh, the library takes care of that.
Okay, because I thought Ace bought a lot of those as well. And maybe, no? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there other comments about the budgets?
Mayor, I don't know that it really matters, but on the police payroll thing, I just wanted to add in, another factor that might help explain our numbers a little better. Because it's a 24-hour operation, we need to staff all vacation and sick leave shifts. And, whereas other areas of the town, if somebody wants to take a vacation day, that shift is not covered. So when you look at the total police budget, that's inclusive of money spent to cover shifts. So another reason why just doing the simple division, against the 2.5% is not probably the best formula.
Right. Yeah, no, I think I appreciated Piper's response there, that she's actually looking at the amount that we've been spending. So that was really helpful.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep. All right. Okay, so good. With that input, I guess I'd like to see how the committee members are feeling. Are you feeling like this is we are at the point where we can bring these two budgets to the town council at the June meeting and pass them and likely pass them, because otherwise we have more work to do. I don't think we need this committee doesn't, I can't recall, I get all my committees confused on the CWC and on the UFA and UFSA budget committees. The budget committee would have a motion to present a budget to the full board. Do we do that? I don't recall.
If memory serves, Mayor, I think the committee just recommends to the mayor advancing the budget to the full council. There's no vote.
Okay, that matches my recollection. Cliff, with your 14 years on the town council, maybe you have the strongest imprinted memory on this issue.
I guess there's been times in the past where we had a substantive difference that needed to be brought forward, and I think that's completely appropriate. I mean, if it's possible that you only have one vote to recommend the budget, there's a serious difference. It's also possible there could be a minority report. Quite candidly, just due to other time constraints, my level of engagement on this one has not been awesome, but at the same time, I don't think it's our role as committee. It is our role as committee members to contribute everything that we see fit to bring forward in the budget process. But I don't think it's also not our role to, second guess, at all times what the clerk is doing. And, sure, there may be some things to be ironed out here, and that's awesome. We'll get the budget in advance, and people will have a chance to make a motion to amend on some points on the budget, and that's the way that it should be. But from my standpoint, sure, yeah, I think we have something that we can pass on to the full town council.
I agree with Cliff. I'm ready to pass it on to the council in June.
Okay, good. All right. Then I think we could have a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Okay. Well, let us decide to be adjourned. Thanks, Cliff. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Excellent.
Bye.
Bye.
Good luck, Elise.